world knows Philadelphia is the place to be.
And they were almost vigilantes, hot, young developers, challenging the good old Philadelphia system, maybe someone with a new vision.
A new $40 million apartment complex hit a snag.
We are the single most scrutinized developer and construction company in the city.
They consistently cry that they're being picked on.
I wouldn't be here talking to you if the Post brothers, I thought, were working in good faith. They're not.
All Philadelphians should be fit to be tied when they hear the full story about Post brothers.
Because of the quaintness of Philadelphia, the uniqueness of Philadelphia, a number of our neighborhoods are being regentrified. And a lot of real estate developers in other places have identified Philadelphia as having very undervalued real estate. So a number of them are coming in.
Matthew and Michael Pestronk are the brothers who are the owners of Post Brothers, or the main faces that go with the company.
They have come to Philadelphia with New York money to exploit the advantages that have been created in our marketplace here.
The brothers are building a development in my district. I'm very pro-development. My main concerns are with the development process, the safety process, and the legality of what's going on in development. Once the construction started, we had complaints to my office from some of the residents there. It's right in the Chinatown area. There was a crane operation there. One of the people had called and said that they thought they were removing some safety features from the crane, which is a very major concern to us. And so we made several calls, and before we got down there checking at the crane, it was gone. We have major concerns with doing things initially with unlicensed contractors, technical permits that they didn't pull, using elevators that weren't inspected. And all these things have drawn major concerns to us.
I've heard there were a lot of problems with the Post brothers, and I heard that they may be cutting some of these corners. Whether it's accurate or not, that I've heard there were some violations, so I wanted to do my due diligence, So I took a walk down there. I like to, get a chance maybe to look around. I understand they had a little army of people down there, and I was asked to leave. I said, well, I don't know whether I really want to do that, and I said, I'd really like to see if I can get in there to see it. And they said, no, we don't think you can. And I'm a construction guy, and I understand what construction's like, and I understand that when you're building something that you're really not completely finished, but you're in the process of doing it. But I wouldn't mind anybody come look at what I'm doing. You're doing it right and proper. I don't know what they were trying to hide.
The Post brothers, the way they operate is they exploit the general public, they exploit their workers, they exploit the taxpayers. There's no safety standards, there's no quality standards. It all goes back to Post making as much money as possible with as little of his investment as possible.
We have pictures from all over the building. If anybody was to see some of the pictures, it should definitely raise a few eyebrows.
The general public has to be aware of what's going on there. There's numerous issues. On the east side of the building, they have a space that goes from the basement up to the roof that's going to be for a trash chute. As they're building the temporary trash chute, they run diesel fuel lines from the basement level to the roof that were to feed diesel fuel to the generator, which was located on the roof. From the ground level, all the way to the roof, diesel fuel lines. It's a major fire hazard. You have high voltage cable exposed, piles of trash, 5, 6, 7 foot wide, blocking the hallway, blocking exits and entrances, blocking the elevators. They have workers working in this building. No fire extinguishers on any of these floors. Fire alarm that's not installed. If a fire starts, God knows what would happen. The elevator failed inspection. Not only is it a key component to moving workers, material, and tools, Post brothers are hell-bent on moving people into the building so they can start turning a profit on the building. So they bring the general public and prospective tenants and other people from the outside into the building, onto the elevator, and use the elevator to transport these people throughout the building. The elevator is unsafe. The elevator failed inspection. The elevator is not supposed to be operated. Post Brothers puts that aside. They do what they want. Safety is a second concern. With the crane, they'd have people working right underneath the load. They used an undersized crane that wasn't inspected. They removed the safety mechanism from the crane so the crane could go above its set level to lift the load. It's just a major accident waiting to happen. You know, and this is just their general practice. This is all normal, everyday routine to these guys. If we remove the need for harnesses, and we remove the need for ground men, and we remove the need to have a 50-ton crane as opposed to a 30-ton crane, we could save a lot of money. I mean, everything they do is gold to keeping their cost as low as possible to create higher profits for themselves.
Everywhere you look, there's urine bottles, there's urine buckets. If people are on, the 8th, 9th floor, they don't want to walk down to the porta-johns.
They use empty water bottles, empty Gatorade bottles, empty spackle buckets. So it became such a problem that you've had dozens and dozens and dozens, maybe hundreds of bottles of urine in the building. They have had buckets, 5-gallon buckets filled within a ½ inch of the brim. I've seen bottles of urine that's sitting between studs and walls that have yet to be closed, and then I've seen the walls closed. And I would venture to say that somebody's got a surprise waiting for them behind the wall somewhere. And the biggest thing is the mold issue.
The mold is everywhere. In the porta-johns, there's a saying on the wall, something to the term of, they're gonna have mold problems in this place for years to come. And that's from an employee at the job site. I don't know who it is, but I mean, everybody's aware of the mold.
They have sheetrock exposed to the weather, and then they're installing it in the units you're gonna live in. You know, you move into a room, is the mold behind the walls? Is the mold in the insulation? Is the mold in the ceiling? Is the mold in the ductwork, blowing air out on you, breathing spores in? The mold is out of control. Their answer to the mold was to walk around with a bottle of water mixed with bleach and spray the mold with bleach. That was their answer to the mold. And what's even worse, what makes it even worse is the management for Post Brothers, they know that these things are wrong. They can't even claim ignorance.
Post Brothers are aware of everything that goes on their job site. They just want the job to be completed.
It's all about saving money. Why won't they remove the mold? Well, it costs money to remove the mold. Why remove it when we can hide it? Anything they can do to reduce their cost, they'll do it. If it's avoiding inspections, if it's not pulling permits, if it's not paying taxes, if it's avoiding payroll overhead, if it's avoiding unemployment insurance.
All I want people to do in the city of Philadelphia when they do development or construction is to follow the rules. And the rules are you need to have a payroll, you need to pay taxes, you need to pay unemployment compensation and workman's compensation. Those are the rules. I mean, it's not something that's special, those are requirements.
You have several different contracting companies on the project. These companies are paying their employees under the table. They treat the employees as a subcontractor. In the process, the worker loses all types of protection and rights. In reality, it's just an elaborate scam set up to cheat the city, the state, and the federal government out of taxes.
Everybody's an independent contractor. Give them what we call a 1099 status. That circumvents the need for Post Brother as a construction manager, as a general contractor, to require workers' compensation and unemployment compensation and taxes and all that other kind of thing withdrawn from people. They don't do that. A 1099, they just write them a check.
In this tax-strapped era that we live in, where we're raising the taxes of poor people, okay, living on minimal pensions, and let these guys avoid paying their fair share, which is disrespectful to every person in Philadelphia.
They want to sort of do things without following all the proper laws and procedures.
It's chaos, and you can't have safety where there's chaos.
This is the Wild West. This is nuts. You know, serious things can happen. And unfortunately for us, and for the city, and for our industry, we had a tragic accident happen just on 22nd Street.
Again, if you're just tuning in, this was at 10:45 this morning. The Philadelphia Fire Department started to get calls of a collapse here at 22nd and Market in Center City.
We will now confirm that there are
6 people who died.
Witnesses have been saying for weeks that they felt funny about this building site.
The way that it was being deconstructed, that something didn't feel right. Even other construction workers who worked in the area said they felt like this was a tragedy just waiting to happen.
Just the same, investigators say there were no existing violations at the building. The demolition company had the proper permits for the work they were doing.
22nd and Market is a building owner doing it on the cheap. I want to maximize my profits. I want to make as much money as I can. And I don't care whether I put those people shopping in the Salvation Army at jeopardy or the people walking along Market Street going to and from work every day in jeopardy. I'm going to get the cheapest price and get the cheapest labor I can get.
The lesson that we learned from 22nd and Market, we could sort of go to that and look at what happens when you don't do our job of inspections.
L&I in the City of Philadelphia is a Department of License and Inspections. Their responsibilities include making sure contractors have the proper permits in place. They perform inspections of construction sites and other buildings. They're the first line of defense that the public has between an unscrupulous contractor and a responsible contractor.
Safety is the most important issue, and that is something that L&I has direct control over. They could go in and inspect the site, and if it's unsafe, they have the ability to shut it down.
You know, and it all comes back to the city and the department set up to have oversight. Where's the oversight? Where are the inspections?
The type of mentality that we have within the city, and by the city, I mean politicians, is it's all about revenue. When it comes to L&I, it's all about money.
There's particular things that L&I can do, but because of policy decisions made by the mayor, they say, well, this is our policy. We want people to build, we want businesses to stay open, we don't want to close them down, let's just collect the fees. That's why L&I became so lax.
There's all kinds of pressures to shortcut things, and those pressures manifest themselves politically. There really is no longer an effective inspection process.
And there's a document that says that, hey, do whatever you have to do basically to give a person a license, and we'll worry about inspections later. When you take a look at L&I, you know, it basically became permits are us.
You know, and I'm not saying that's why we had a collapse on 22nd and Market Street, but that leads to the thing, well, let's give them more time. It leads to the mentality of even the inspectors to say, you know what, well, they have another 30 days to comply. Since a lot of the developers know this process and the new policy that the administration and the mayor have put into effect, they learn to game the system.
When Jim Kenney discovered that they did not have permits to begin with, they were able to get some kind of expedited permitting system. They got those permits in 2 days. That's very, very telling about that L&I department, about someone down there. So there's something's not right down there.
They just laughed in this L&I's face. Now, the only reason that I can get is either they think they're above the law or they had some sort of an arrangement with Mayor Nutter's administration.
I don't understand, frankly, why this particular development, these particular developers have been given the passes that they've been given by the Nutter administration, because they have certainly been given passes. And they are increasingly energetic about getting their certificate of occupancy. And at this point in time, from what I've seen and what's been reported to me by the L&I Commissioner, is that there's a lot of really serious safety issues still existing.
L&I is here every day. OSHA is here every day. We don't get fines, we don't get violations because it's a safe site.
They have proved to the world that you can come to Philadelphia, you can not pull permits, you can not use licensed contractors, you can do whatever you want, you can create serious safety hazards, And the present administration basically endorses this type of activity.
I don't care whether you hire a union or you don't hire a union. It's not my issue. My issue is safety, taxes, and following the rules. Because if you pay your taxes and you act in a safe manner, you're going to probably be price competitive with the union and other reputable companies that do that kind of work.
I'm pro-development. I like to see new development, but I think we have to do it smartly, we have to do it carefully, and we have to make sure we have trained and people who are you know, have skills to do this type of work.
You can see there's terrazzo floors, pretty high-end lighting, glass curtain wall. This building is 2116 Chestnut Street. It is a 35-story apartment building. Right now we're on the 5th floor, which is the amenities floor. Has a gymnasium. You can obviously outside, there's a grill area, jacuzzi.
Most of our work is in the city of Philadelphia. We do everything from higher education work at Penn, Temple, Drexel, to high-rise apartments, condos, and such. In Philadelphia, we build everything union, because if you do it right the first time, then it'll be done cheaper, quicker, and safer. The workers that come out of the local unions here are very skilled, and it's more than just the skill, it's also from a safety standpoint. The unions have stepped up tremendously over the last 10 to 15 years relative to their safety training. Our contract was for a 21-month duration. From the time we started foundations till we had our first turnover of units was 17 months. So way ahead of schedule.
This is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath unit. We came in under budget. It was a safe job. We didn't have any L&I violations. We were inspected weekly by L&I.
The labor leaders in the city, you know, are willing to work with developers to be as efficient as possible, which equates into, you know, a cost-effective project.
If you were to take 2116 Chestnut Street versus the Goldtech site, that property was a building that was already in place, and they started when we started. And basically what we've done in 21 months is we've demolished a building, built a 35-story structure, and completed it. And if you go and look at Goldtech's at the same time frame, you're looking at a building that basically hasn't shown any signs of progress for the last 6 to 8 months.
The big picture here is how do we build in Philadelphia? And the Goldtech site is the poster boy for doing it wrong, for cutting corners, because it's all about money. There is a sense, an understanding that when you go into a building, that it's safe. Post Brothers proved that that's not always the case in the city of Philadelphia. So this isn't about union against non-union, this is about public safety.
A poorly constructed building is every bit as dangerous as a poorly demolished building.
You know, hindsight is 100% at 22nd and Market, but on 12th Street it's not hindsight, it's foresight. You can certainly try to prevent something's happening someplace else.
This is a trial balloon, and if successful, and they can do it wrong, it's coming to your neighborhood. Because they're going to do the same thing right next to you in the neighbor's house. They're going to do it down the corner. Your kids are going to live in those buildings, be exposed to those hazards. And we can't afford that in the city of Philadelphia. We can't afford another 22nd and Market.